sort of figure out where China stands on this. On one hand, China is a very, very large holder of U.S. dollars, of U.S. debt. So, sure, would they like to become the reserve currency, or would the BRICS group, of which China is a big part, like to create? They talk about creating an alternative currency. Maybe, but on the other hand, they all have a lot of dollars. So what's China's role in the weakness or strength of the American dollar?
Well, it's very big. You should think of this in terms of market share. Europe doesn't use the dollar. They have a regional currency. And I think at the end of all this, that's what's going to come out of Asia, that the yuan is going to become the regional currency in much of Asia and even used in places Africa, Latin America. Now, it's not all about do you hold dollars, do you hold their currency. You need to have a framework. You need to have an alternative banking structure to do trade, to be able to do transactions. But they're working on that, and these new technologies make it a lot easier. They've been doing that for a while. When Russia had the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and China saw what we did to Russia with the sanctions, we seized their central bank assets, are frozen. They already were accelerated. Now they see Donald Trump and the trade war, and they also see he's talking maybe, not in earnest yet about not paying in full our debt. He's talking about getting rid of the Federal Reserve Chair, bringing interest rates down to 1%, which would mean a lot of inflation and undermining the dollar. All of this is sort of having people move to the exits. It's not quick, but it's happening.
You started this conversation by pointing out that one shouldn't think of the value of the dollar independent of the fact that the strength of the dollar is backstopped by our bond market. So when Donald Trump talks about the Fed reducing rates and things like that, there is actually a free market in part of this that isn't controlled by the president and not necessarily controlled by the Fed either.
No, the Fed does not control our Federal Reserve, our central bank. It actually only controls the overnight interest rate, which is mainly of interest to banks. That influences the other interest rates. But the 10-year interest rate, that's the bellwether of global financial markets. That's really set by what markets think is going to happen, not just what the Federal Reserve is going to do, what supply and demand, how many people are going to invest, what savings going to be, and also how trustworthy are future governments. How much can they trust the United States? What do they think, really what's going on in global markets? And that's been going up the last few years. And Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill where he wants to borrow more than